The Alberta government says a new report proves that the federal target for a net zero electricity grid by 2035 will not work. That report comes from an independent panel advising the federal energy minister. However, that minister says Alberta leaders are being misleading on what the report says and about the timeline.
Premier Smith knows full well that there is flexibility already built into the draft of the clean electricity regulations that allows existing natural gas power plants to continue to operate for a period of time beyond 2035. So this facade about 2035 is a facade. At the end of the day, there is flexibility in the reg, which is what she is saying she needs in order to actually get to a clean grid. We've been very thoughtful about how we responded to that. What she's saying to Albertans is just not true.
All right, well, let's go deeper into that report now with Philippe Dunsky, who chairs the Canada Electricity Advisory Council. He's also president of Dunsky Energy and Climate Advisors. Mr. Dunsky, good to see you.
Good to be here. Thank you.
So I do want to preface this with a caveat, which is that in your report, you actually talk about a need to take the politics out of electricity and have governments working together. But, you know, we do have the Alberta Premier saying your report backs up her view that the federal plan for 2035 is costly and unrealistic. We have the federal energy minister saying that's not what your report says. So I want to start by asking if you can provide some clarity on what exactly it is the council is recommending in terms of the net zero timeline.
Sure. So the council doesn't actually recommend a specific timeline around electricity. What it does point to is the urgent need to both finish the job of decarbonizing our electricity systems, but far more importantly, to grow clean electricity, to be able to grow the electricity system and systems across the country, to be able to meet new demands that Canadians are looking for. So that's really the thrust of the report. The report touches on, and I'll say touched on because we produced an interim report back in the fall. And in that report, we did address the CER, the Clean Electricity Regulation, that is the focus of that clip that you just showed me. In that interim report, as in our final report, you know, we did say that excuse me. We did say that that the initial draft of the regulations really did require more flexibility, and that draft was the draft from late summer, early fall. So we do believe that was not flexible enough, that you do need more flexibility there to make sure that Alberta and Saskatchewan and Nova Scotia and others are able to do this in a reliable, affordable way. And I believe that there's a new version coming that I'm very hopeful will have those flexibilities built in.
Okay, perhaps you can go into a bit of detail for us about what some of those plans could be, because in your report you say that there are no easy answers, no silver bullets, no one-size-fits-all solutions. So for someone in Alberta or Saskatchewan looking at this, what could that mean?
For the goal of decarbonizing the existing grids, you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it can mean, it's many things in different places, right? Every province has a different set of resources, a different electricity system itself. So if you look at a place like, again, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, and some of the remote communities, what they don't have that others do have is clean baseload power. So the power that's there all the time and that you can control easily. Things that hydro produces or things that nuclear produce. Those are absent right now in those provinces. And that makes it much harder for them to do the job of decarbonizing their systems. It means that they may have to be looking at for sure more renewables, but also things like gas with carbon capture storage on the back end of that. Later on, we could be looking at nuclear as well. And very critically, I would say, we need to be talking about transmission. We need to be talking about connecting provinces with neighboring provinces who have, very complementary resources. So, I always think back to 30 years ago, this country had the great debate around free trade. And, there's a lot of nervousness about it. And ultimately we did it. And I think we're very happy that we did it. We don't really have sufficient trade in electricity right now. So you've got, I'll give you an example. Alberta and Saskatchewan have the best wind and solar resources in the country. It is cheaper to produce electricity from wind and solar in Alberta and Saskatchewan than anywhere else in this country. They don't need necessarily more wind and solar right now. They need more baseload. But BC and Manitoba could really use that low-cost wind and solar. If we had more transmission, we would see more trading. And Alberta and Saskatchewan would benefit because they'd be able to develop more of their resources and export those out. And the neighboring provinces would benefit from getting those at a lower cost and being able to send back that baseload control power to Alberta and Saskatchewan. Bottom line is, we're not optimizing.
Okay, I do want to turn to another aspect of your report, which deals with the affordability side, the demand side for users, which you say is very important. That fighting climate change is important, but it has to be done in a way that protects affordable rates for people and that is sustainable. So, what do you think needs to happen on that end?
So let me just start with, Council was extremely concerned, put a lot of priority on the question of affordability to the point where we actually commissioned some independent analysis of it. The analysis ended up finding, a little bit counterintuitive, but the analysis ended up finding that Canadian households on average stand to gain significantly from this transition. Ultimately, our households' energy costs will stand to be lower by about $1,500 if we do this right. $1,500 per year, that is. So very significant savings ahead. Why is that? Because electricity can be consumed much more efficiently than most fossil fuels can for most uses, or at least for the biggest uses, for transportation and heating. So we are looking at a system that, if we jump forward a generation, we're doing this for our kids, right? If we jump forward and think of our kids, they are probably going to be looking at electricity rates that are higher, but wildly offset by a reduction in costs at the pump and a reduction in cost in home heating bills. And overall, they're actually looking to come out ahead. So that's the good news story in this. Again, I don't want to be cheap and easy about it. It's not going to happen on its own. It's not going to happen without very deliberate and very thoughtful intent. But that is one of the prizes at the end of this.
All right, Philippe Dunsky, Chair of the Canada Electricity Advisory Council. Thanks for your time on this.
My pleasure.